हेलो माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू द ब्यूटीफुल चैनल पढ़ाई का कवच। कैसे हो सभी लोग? स्टूडेंट, हमने पिछले लेक्चर के अंदर देखा था और शुरू किया था हमने हमारा नया यूनिट विच इज़ द यूनिट नंबर 6, टिश्यूज़। ओके, टिश्यूज़ के अंदर हमने काफ़ी जानकारी ली थी कि हाउ द टिश्यूज़ आर फॉर्म्ड। दे आर अ ग्रुप ऑफ सर्टेन same number of cells which performs the certain basic function. Okay, and that arrangement is called as tissues together form an organ together form an organ system, and with the help of different organ system an entire organism is made up. Okay, and the examples of that organism are human body, animals. Okay, and then after we are at the point the types of tissues, and I've already told you there are two major type of tissues, plant tissues and animal tissues. Let us start our today's topic, student, plant tissue. Okay, the first type inside the plant tissue is the meristematic tissues. पहला प्रकार जो है वो है meristematic tissue. Student, such type of meristematic tissues means a group of cells which is known as the meristematic tissues are found in all growing parts of the plant. यानी कि जो भाग विकसित हो रहे हैं प्लांट्स के, जैसे कि स्टेम्स है, रूट्स है, लीव्स है, फ्रूट्स है, उन सभी पॉइंट्स के ऊपर इस प्रकार के टिश्यूज़ होते हैं. सो द टिश्यूज़ विच आर फाउंड on the growing parts of the plant are called as the meristematic tissues. The example of these tissues are stems and roots. यानी कि स्टेम्स और रूट्स के ऊपर जो टिश्यूज फाइंड आउट होते हैं उसे मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू कहा जाता है. सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइप ऑफ टिश्यू. Okay students, are you able to get it? Now let us talk that what are the characteristic of the meristematic tissue. इन टिश्यूज़ के लक्षण क्या है? इस टिश्यूज़ को आइडेंटिफाई कैसे किया जा सकता है? The first characteristic of this kind of tissues that this cells of this tissue are very small. So the cell size is considerably small. The cells are cubical. मतलब इस टिश्यूज़ के अंदर जो सेल होते हैं उसका शेप तकरीबन इस तरीके से होता है. शेप उसका जैसा कि एक क्यूबॉइड हो. Sorry student, I need a few minutes of time to explain you about this type of tissues. So students, this is a one cell and the group of cells are known as the tissue, as I have already told you. But the meristematic tissues are in a shape of cuboid. यानी कि एक क्यूब के जैसे शेप में, जैसे कैसे डाइसेस होते हैं, जो हम लूडो खेलते हैं तो लूडो में डाइस होता है, इस तरीके से ये डाइसेस के शेप में होते हैं और इसे क्यूबिकल शेप कहा जाता है. ओके, द सेल वॉल इज वेरी थिन, मीन्स द सेपरेटिंग सरफेस टू ईच अदर of the cell is very thin. Cell tightly packed with almost no intercellular space. In student, if we magnify the meristematic tissue, this tissue does not have that much intercellular space. So because of the less intercellular space, this are called as the tightly packed cells which having a less space. New cells produced are transformed into mature permanent tissue. Means student, till the time of growing, the parts of the plant are called as the meristematic tissue, but once they are fully grown, means if the bark of the tree or the leaves are fully grown, then that tissues are converted or transformed into the matured permanent tissue, which is our next type of tissue. The first type is the meristematic tissue, the second type is the permanent tissue. Permanent means kaimi. Such type of tissues are made up of cells which have lost their ability to divide. Means if the further growth is not there of any of the tissue, then that kind of tissues are transformed into the permanent tissue because they lost their ability to divide into the further cell division. They take permanent state to perform some permanent functions. Means if we talk about the roots, student, the roots are having a certain type of functions of transpiration. यानी कि कोई एक पेड़ का रूट जो है उसके मूल, the roots are supplying a continuous amount of water and the source, it is a source of the minerals and various kind of other nutrients which will supply the essential nutrients from the land to the various part of the trees like leaves, stem, barks and fruits. Okay, so when the meristematic tissues are fully grown, they are transformed into the permanent tissue, and that permanent tissue are settle their permanent state and perform some permanent function. This kind of tissues may be living or it might be dead, as we see on the surface of the bark that cells are dead. Now, this permanent tissues has three types. First is protective tissue, second is supporting tissue, and third is a conducting tissue. Student, don't confuse in the type of tissue, because plant tissue first type is a meristematic tissue, right? Meristematic tissue. Second type is a permanent tissue, and in the permanent tissue there is also subdivision. There are three type of permanent tissue. First is protective, second is supporting, and third is conducting tissue. Okay, so let us talk about the protective tissue. Protective tissue means the type of cells which will protect the plant from the external environment. Okay, students, when you touch the leaves of the plant, it is having a shiny surface and it is a very smooth and having a shiny appearance, and that surface which will protect the leaves are called as the protective surface, which is made up from the protective tissues. This surface, student, helps the plant to protect from the outside environment and from the rupture. Okay, and this protective tissue surface, or we can call it as a cell wall, are very thick, found on a surface of roots and leaves. हमें पत्तों के और पेड़ों के जो मूल होते हैं वहाँ पे इस तरीके के टिश्यूज जो है वो पाए जाते हैं, जैसे कि एपिडर्मिस। उसके बाद है सपोर्टिंग टिश्यू। सपोर्टिंग टिश्यू are also divided into the three sections, so don't confuse student. Parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, तो प्लांट टिश्यू के अंदर परमानेंट टिश्यू, परमानेंट टिश्यू के तीन टाइप, प्रोटेक्टिव टिश्यू, सपोर्टिंग टिश्यू, and inside the supporting tissue there are also three type: parenchyma tissue, collenchyma tissue, and sclerenchyma tissue. Okay, student has a large thin walls in shape of circular or polygonal. Means this kind of tissue is having a circular section and having a thin walls. Okay, it is found in soft part of plant such as in the pith central region. Means if this is a circular portion of the tree, then in between this, in this section, if we cut it out and see, then that kind of cells or tissues are found out. Okay, parenchyma tissues, which is a supportive tissue, it is located in the central region of the plant. It may store food as in potatoes, यानी कि फलों के अंदर जैसे कि वेजिटेबल्स है उसमें पोटैटो है जो फूड स्टोर करके रखता है स्टार्च ग्रेन्यूल्स के अंदर, वैसे ही जो ये पेरेंचाइमा टिश्यू है it will store also the food particles. It also provide the temporary support to the plants because, as we know student, if it is laid in the central region of the tree, then it is also having a supportive structure. Next is student collenchyma tissue. The shape looks like this. This is the shape of the collenchyma tissue. It is made up of cells which are long and the cell walls are thick at the corners. Means in the plant cells the cell wall is present and this cell wall is thick at the corners in this shape. Okay, so this thickness is more inside the collenchyma tissues. This tissue is also helps to support the plant structure. Example of this tissue below the epidermis of the stem, means under the epidermis of the stem, collenchyma tissues are lying. Then after there is a sclerenchyma tissue. This tissue is composed of long narrow cells which have become dead. Means the sclerenchyma tissue are one type of dead cells, okay, which is long but narrow in structure. These tissues provide storage to the plant parts and made up from lignin. So this kind of tissues are dead in nature as well as it provides storage to the plant parts which is made up from the lignin material. This example of this kind of tissues are coconut outer shell tissue and outside shell of the dry fruit. Means if we see the outer shell of the coconut, looks like a dead cells. Okay, the cells are not living on the outermost side of the coconut as well as of dry fruit like akroot, walnut, and in special case बादाम are also. Okay, पिस्ता, उसका भी आउटर शेल जो है वो सख्त होता है और डेड सेल होता है, which is made up from the sclerenchyma tissue. So student, we will limited our content up to this topic. In the next lecture we will study about the third type of plant tissue, conducting tissue, xylem tissue and the phloem tissue, and after that we will study about the major second section of the types of tissue, animal tissue. Okay, so thank you all my dear students. We will limit our content up to this. So I hope कि today आपने बहुत सारा जो कंटेंट है वो तो हमने नहीं पढ़ा, लेकिन जितना भी पढ़ा वो बहुत इफ़ेक्टिव पढ़ा हुआ होना चाहिए. लाइक मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू, परमानेंट टिश्यू, उसके बाद जो है परमानेंट टिश्यू के तीन टाइप, प्रोटेक्टिव, सपोर्टिंग एंड कंडक्टिंग. उसके अंदर प्रोटेक्टिव के बारे में पढ़ा और सपोर्टिंग के अंदर पेरेंचाइमा, कोलेंचाइमा एंड स्क्लेरेंचाइमा, एंड देन आफ्टर वी विल स्टडी अबाउट द कंडक्टिंग टिश्यू which conduct the water and food to the various parts of the plant. ओके, सो यहाँ तक आज का लेक्चर रखते हैं. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर के अंदर हम डिस्कस आगे करेंगे. थैंक यू.